Introducing the reigning, defending, Inside Fighting host, Robby Clark.
We've got Smile and Sam Alvey on Inside Fighting today. He is a 22-fight UFC veteran with a career spanning over 8 years with the organization. Sam, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, it is my pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for wanting me on.
So now I'll get right into it. Your entry into fighting was really in wrestling, for those who don't know, right? You started off with a base in wrestling, and I wanted to ask you, how did you find MMA, and what got you into the sport?
Now, to say I started with wrestling is exaggerating what I did. I mean, I technically wrestled, but I was a practice dummy for the good guys. I just kind of enjoyed the workout. I did it late in my high school, and then late in my college career again. So I wrestled off and on for 4 years, which was not that much. But really, my entrance into the fighting realm was some guy asked if I wanted to fight, and I said, "Yeah, okay." And that was it. I didn't know anything about the sport. I didn't know anything about what it took. I never watched UFC. I probably didn't know what the UFC was until I was, 7-1 as a professional. It was just something I thought was fun, and so I did.
Yeah, that's incredible. I guess that explains why. Now, I was going to ask you how you managed to find your groove in the stand-up, right? Because clearly that's where you excel. You're a knockout artist. You've always just got natural good movement, but you do have a bit of a base in wrestling. That would have been, you started wrestling, I guess, before stand-up. So what led you to, preferring to stand and exchange as opposed to build on the wrestling?
The first 4 years of my career, I was the head coach of my gym. You can't really teach yourself jujitsu, but you can teach yourself not to get taken down. So that was it. Just don't touch the ground. And you don't have to worry about it. As I progressed, the takedowns got better, and I needed more practice on the ground. So now I'm a pretty established jujitsu guy as well, submitting. So I think I've submitted 3 people in my 70 fights, but they were fantastic submissions. And that's really why I chose standing, is I didn't want to be on the ground.
Makes sense. And now I'm trying to remember, because you went up to 205, but you started your career at 205, did you not? Or you had a few fights at light heavyweight?
Yeah, probably most of my first 12 fights were at 205. Mm-hmm. And then I was at 85 for almost my entire career. About 3 years ago, I went back up to 205, and now I'm back at 85. So I can dance around pretty well. I'm usually somewhere between 225 and 230, my weight. So either weight class is all right, but those 205ers just got bigger. I hit them with all I had, and they didn't fall over quite the same. I decided to go back down and get screwed by the judges there.
Yeah, no, it's a tough. I know you've got like 3 split decisions in your past 6-7 fights now. So I was looking at that too. But the I was going to ask that because there's such a big gap between 185 and 205. And obviously, it's, I imagine, more strict on your diet in order to make 185. But is there a weight that you feel better at come fight night? Do you feel like in the ring, you feel better at 205 or 185, would you say?
I feel about the exact same. I've really never had a big difference. It's harder to get to 85, but in the ring, I feel the same. During camp, I feel just as good training for 205 as I do at 185. I have to run more to get to 85, but that's probably good for me anyways.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, I was watching an interview where you were doing, but you were talking about your nutrition a little bit and saying, that you've been adding more carbs, I think, to your breakfast as well too. And that's helped and been working with the UFC PI Institute. So I was wondering if you got to be more restrictive and you're not eating enough or as much getting down to 185, if that impacts things. But you said you feel pretty good overall. I
just have to be honest with myself. At 205, I didn't have to be as honest. At 85, I have to be honest. At 85, there's no 2 ways about it. If I cheat on a meal, suffer in the sauna come wake time.
Yeah, and that's not an enjoyable fight, I can imagine. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Your wife McKee has been a staple in your corner. For anyone who knows and listens, they also understand that she's awesome. I've heard Daniel Cormier talk about her as well too, saying she's one of the composed and best corner men or corner women in this field. And I was going to say, obviously you guys are together. When did you make that transition? I know she's a jiu-jitsu coach as well too, but when did you make that transition into her really helping out in your corner? And what was the reason behind it?
She's been there since fight 1. There was no transition to her. At the beginning, it was, if I said she was my corner, it was a free ticket. And she took it way more serious than I ever did. She's the whole reason I changed gyms. She's the reason I continued fighting. So I mean, I've got over 70 fights. I think she missed one of them because of COVID. And so she's been there from the beginning, and she'll be there at the end.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know that your whole career. That's crazy. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, amateur to professional kickboxing. I mean, she's been there for all of it.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's great, man. So I also hear she's a phenom in the kitchen. I saw that on one of your last interviews. Do you ever think that you might feature her skills on Instagram? I feel like you guys got the perfect family. Like, I think you had 4 kids, and now you brought a 5th one into the household, and you can imagine all the chaotic energy there. But between that and some cooking, Sam Alvey, I think you have a show on your hands right now.
Right, we should be a YouTube sensation. I just got to figure out how to use YouTube. I've started to. Right now, I'm building my YouTube channel. I'm at about 350 subscribers. Once I get to 1,000, though, I'm giving away autographs from Dan Henderson and Sokaju and Vince St. Preux and myself. I mean, the list will go on. So if you're watching, follow me on YouTube. And I'm going to start getting into more training stuff. I'm going to get into a lot of cooking stuff. I'm going to have a hell of a time on YouTube. And all my other social medias, love TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that's going to help build the interest in my YouTube.
And again, you're charismatic. I mean, your wife's used to it too. She was America's next top model, so she's used to being in front of the camera. But yeah, I think the dynamic in your household and what you do it'd be really fun. People want to get more Sam Alvey for sure. And for those who don't know, Team Quest, I mean, that's going way back. That's I was going to ask you about that as well too. How was your time at Team Quest? Because that's back when the Pride days were big, and you had Sokaju, like you just mentioned, who was huge over there. How was that period in your life there?
Still that period of my life. I know I'm in Tennessee now, but all my camps are still going to be over there.
Okay.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, Dan Henderson is just a fantastic. I mean, he's one of the greatest fighters to have ever lived, but he's a good person on top of that. So I've had so much fun learning from him, and you see a lot in my style. I mean, there's some Dan Henderson in there. I mean, I've got the highest takedown rating, I think, in the UFC history. I hit just about as hard as he does. I do a lot of things very similar to him, and it's my time with him that's really made that the case.
It's true. Yeah. As you say that, I mean, I know you guys style well, but I've never even thought of comparing the two, and you do. And again, Dan was the same way, particularly later in his career, where he used his his wrestling very defensively, right? Which is for a guy, and especially on his caliber, to do that, it's always exciting to see, right? Because you got it on your hands as well too. So yeah, Dan is a legend for sure. Now, I see on your page a lot. You do a lot of really uplifting quotes, but even religious quotes as well too. And I just wanted to know, is that always been a big part of your life? Do you go to church, and has that just been inspired from childhood? And
I'm smiling Sam for a reason. As many fights as my wife has been in the corner of me on, the good Lord's been there even more. And I mean, I've been blessed with a platform, and I would love to spend every platform I have trying to shine some light on his good graces. So probably 3 or 4 years now, every day I post a new quote, and from the Bible. I'm on a couple email lists, so I get sent 4 or 5 quotes a day, 1 or 2 quotes a day probably, and then I read them and I decide which one I want to put on there, and I think about it a little bit. And I'm a very religious man. I understand that nothing I have here is solely mine. He's been there every step of the way, and every blessing I have is because of him. And again, I'm smiling Sam because of him, not because of anything I've ever been able to do.
No, it's incredible, man. It's nice to have that belief in something. You need to. I mean, even for people who aren't religious, there has to be something there to focus on and actually believe it, because it really adds a lot to your life, like you said, right? So now I'm going to switch gears again and move it over to a recent interview where you said it's the same interview right now. It was going on the nutrition. You took some of my questions out, but I heard in a recent interview that your favorite weigh-in meal is pizza with green peppers, and so I'm assuming that's your cheat meal. But do you switch it up? Is that always your favorite meal to have, whether it's a cheat meal or just right after weigh-ins?
Yeah, so it is. I've just, like I said, I've had over 70 fights. After every one of those fights, I have found a pizza place. I fought all over the world. I've had pizza, and I mean everywhere. And I've got a list of what the best I've ever had is and what the worst I've ever had is. And it's what I do. I was at a UFC seminar a bunch of years ago, and I had already been doing the pizza thing. And the UFC doctor was in there and taking questions. And I asked him, how does pizza go as opposed to weighing meal after, my belly's settled down after the weight cut. And he actually thought for a second, he said, it's actually probably pretty good. It doesn't have much. As long as you don't get like a pizza where just grease. He said it kind of has everything you're looking to have. It's got some fats, it's got the carbs, it's got either the protein or the veggies. He said it's not a terrible way to go. And so he said it, and I don't plan on ever asking any other doctors. So as of right now, and it's forevermore, every doctor I've ever talked to about it said it's the best thing you can do.
That's incredible. Yeah. I was saying I have one doctor measured me at 5'10". I think I'm 5'9", but I say, look, I'm 5'10" on a good day and I don't need to get measured again. So
yeah,
that's funny. So now, thin or thick crust, in which country, since you've been all over the world, had the best pizza?
Yeah, so I go thick crust every chance I can. I'm a Midwestern boy. I wasn't far from Chicago, and my wife makes the greatest thick crust pizza you ever see. It's a pie. The best pizza I've ever had. Now, it might be tainted. The worst weight cut I have ever had was when I fought in Poland. I cut the most weight as a short notice fight. It was 42 pounds in 10 days. And it was the most miserable thing I've ever done, in or out of the cage. And afterwards, I had pizza in Poland, and it was the greatest thing I think I've ever eaten. It was just incredible. I remember to this day, I remember it was a sweeter pizza than most of the time. I'm usually not a sweet guy, but this pizza was just incredible.
That's incredible. Poland, you wouldn't think. That's cool. That's a big win for Poland on that one.
It is. And it might have been because of the weight cut. I admit it was a big weight cut. It was torturous, but it was the greatest pizza I've ever had.
That's great. And like you said, your wife makes a great one as well too. I'm telling you, that's something on the channel. You got Dana doing the F It Fridays now with his meal. You got David Portnoy with his pizza reviews that did incredible. Might be Sam Alvey's reviews of McKee's food, right? So
people would pay to watch it. People would pay to eat.
100%, man. Everybody stays on for food. Everybody's got a soft spot for food. So what is the most memorable fight you've had to date? Inside, I'm imagining it's in the octagon, but if it's not, which fight?
All right, so one of the best fights I've ever fought was against Darwin Young. As much as it hurts me to say, I got a draw because the judging in the UFC is terrible. But that was probably one of the best fights I've ever looked. But my favorite fight I've ever done, just to build up to everything, was against Nate Marquardt. When I was on The Ultimate Fighter, Nate Marquardt was one of my coaches. It was Shane Carwin's team, but he brought in Nate Marquardt to work a lot with us. And so I'm one of the few fighters in the world in the history of fighting that I got to fight my coach. And I won the fight. It was a great fight. He hit me. He hit me the second hardest out of anyone that's ever hit me. Hendo's got one, Nate Marquardt's number 2. And it was a good fight. It was a good fight I won, and I got to fight and beat my coach.
Yeah, it's incredible. And for those who don't know, Nate Marquardt, again, another legend of the sport. He actually TKO'd, I'm sure as you know, Tyrone Woodley in a crazy fight. I think it was Strickland.
Yeah, he took the WEC belt from him.
Yeah, that's
kept him from getting it.
That was a war, but he can crack. And Tyrone, like, that would have been 29, 30, probably about 8-9 years ago. But that's Nate's it's quite the cap. What is it? Quite the win. Can't think of that expression right now, but it's quite the win to have. With that being said, I know you've talked a couple times there. I was just going to say that, like, 3 of your last 7 fights have been split decisions. You had another draw that you said was your most memorable fight as well, too. What do you think can be done? Because I think that's something that the common fan always has an issue with. I'm sure a lot of people who gamble have an issue with it as well, too. With the judging in the UFC, it doesn't seem to improve. What would you do to ensure that the judging changes and that it's more consistent? Because there's just so many things to monitor. Sometimes you're like, okay, it's tougher. They're going to judge wrestling more or whatnot. But at the end of the day, you feel like most amateur, people watching the sport could do a better job than a lot of the judges. What do we do to change it?
I think public executions would be a good start. No, Joe Rogan had the best idea. I wish I could say it was mine, but no, Joe Rogan came up with it. He said, why do we only have 3 judges? 3 judges, all you need is 2 judges screwed up. And 3 is just the number they picked. Why don't they have 5 or 7 or 9 or 11 judges? Pick an odd number of judges and throw them in there. And I think that would solve a lot of it. I don't think past fighters or people who have trained would make any better judge than somebody who's a fan of the sport or knows the scoring system. I've known plenty of fighters that I disagree with. Plenty of fighters disagree with me. But as much as training and understanding the sport might help, I don't know that it's a necessity. But I think if you were to just get more judges, the bad judges wouldn't matter anymore. The other thing I would suggest doing is literally just firing judges that are always on the wrong side of bad decisions. Fire them. Let the world know they're gone. And the fear of being fired can go a long ways for a lot of people.
Also, with so much on the line, like the majority of the UFC fighters, obviously you're getting a win bonus as well too. So like you're cutting people's pay. It's just, there's so much on the line that it's like, it's a tough thing to see, you know, and I think it's something that, you know, eventually they got to do something. So
changing careers. I mean, if you look at my three of my last 4 fights, I felt I won. There's just so much on the line, even more than a paycheck. There's a career. I feel I've won 3 of my last 4 fights. And I mean, that's by all means, the UFC is not cutting me, but they could. They could cut me, and it is because of judging that the decision is possible, or that the possibility is possible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's you know, and you're such an exciting fighter as well too, and I'm sure they really appreciate you always stepping up and coming in there, right? So I mean, obviously, you know, that helps, but you know, that is a factor. It's like I shouldn't even have to worry about that, right? And,
correct. Yeah.
So the last couple of questions I was going to ask you, I wanted to know who the toughest guy besides Dan Henderson. Who's the toughest guy you've come across and trained with?
Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland's one of my best training partners. He and I, we've known each other for years now. I've broken his knee, he's broken my jaw, and we're about as good of friends as 2 gyms could make. He will be the next champion. He will, whoever it is. If Whitaker beats Adesanya, Sean will beat Whitaker. If Adesanya is still the king, Sean will beat him. Sean's as good as it gets, and I look forward to helping him get to that title.
That's incredible. And you're smiling, Sam Alvey, for a reason, because there's a lot of people who give a lot of hate to Sean Strickland, but you know, he's
oh, don't get me wrong. Sean's an asshole.
Yeah.
Pardon my language. No, he is. He would be the first to admit it, but Sean is as talented a fighter as there's been. And he always jokes. Sean's got this thing after every round I've ever sparred him, and there's been thousands, he said, you know, the thing about you, Sam, and that is just constantly, and he does it to everyone. We were training the other day, and he started talking to who was it? Chiesa. He said, you know the thing about you, and Chiesa like, shut the heck up, Sean. He didn't say heck, but shut the heck up, Sean. You're not my coach. But that's just Sean. He's hilarious. He knows the sport well. He's tougher than he ought to be, and he will be the next UFC champion.
That's incredible. Yeah, and after he also had a big injury. I've always enjoyed watching him fight, and I actually enjoy him talking even more now, like just because it's funny to have, and it always adds a little bit of you know, flavor to it. Him and the Luke Rockhold, like little jabs there. I'm really excited for that fight. I mean, you know, Luke is going to try and come back, obviously motivated and be in there. That's going to be a great fight. But yeah,
yeah, no, I'm surprised Luke accepted it. I think it is such a bad fight for Luke. I think Sean's going to put him to sleep as early as Sean wants to. But it is fun. I like Luke. I've trained to him once or twice too, but they're different levels. Between Sean and Luke, I've trained with them both, and I think Sean is going to do what he wants when he wants to, Luke.
Wow, that's interesting. And I know they had trained once apparently together. You know, 6 months.
Yeah, only once. Yeah. Sean's tried to train with them before again, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, it'll happen in real life now. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And who's your favorite fighter to watch? Last 2 questions, and then after that, top 3 fighters of all time. So favorite fighter to watch now, and top 3 fighters.
Favorite fighter to watch, right? Well, Nagano's there's just the hype on him. He hits so hard, and everybody knows it. There's just always that aura around him, like he's the biggest, scariest guy in the room, because he's usually the biggest, scariest guy in the room. Favorite 3 fighters of all times, though. All right, so I love Anderson Silva. I always say Dan Henderson's number 1, but if I don't say him, he'll hit me. So outside of Dan Henderson, Anderson Silva's number 1, Jose Aldo's number 2, and Roger Huerta was number 3. I've always loved watching him fight, and he hasn't been around in a minute, but I always enjoyed watching him fight.
That's incredible. Yeah, you brought up some really good names from the past there. Anybody, again, who doesn't know Roger Huerta, look him up. You know, online, UFC Fight Pass, whatever. He was incredible. The wars with Clay Guida. He had some.
That is my favorite fight of all time. His versus Guida.
It's that guy was something else. He was a lot of fun to watch for sure. And now, since you are last question, sorry, when are you looking to get back in there and test yourself again? Like, what is your timeline? Are you hanging out for a little bit? Obviously you're still training.
Yeah, no, I'm still training just about every day. I just hurt my neck the other day. But when do I want to get back? I want to get back as probably February. I just moved to Tennessee. I'm in the middle of remodeling my house with my dad and my wife. And so I'm kind of finding where the gyms are here to keep me busy, keep me going. And once the swelling goes down a little bit, then I'll head back out to California and get ready for my next one.
Amazing, man. Yeah, I was gonna say it's getting a little slimmer every single time, so it's slowly.
Yeah,
it's good. Awesome, man. Well, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time out and taking me around the lot. I see it looks like you got a fair bit of land there, which is pretty cool. So, no, this is awesome, man. I mean, so you got a bunch of land out there. It looks like, or a decent sized lot, and just out.
Yeah, I've got about 5 or 6 acres. There's a pond right over that way behind the house. I got a whole bunch of land back that way. Yeah, I love where I'm at, and no mosquitoes. I couldn't believe it, but there are no mosquitoes here. I don't know why there aren't. There's none. I am outside at night, during the day, whenever, and nothing has bit me yet.
Yeah, it's no bigger pain in the ass than that. So what made you move down to Tennessee? What did you?
One, California sucks. I mean, it is the armpit of the United States. So I couldn't wait to get out of there. And then I fought in California twice, about 6 years ago, and then again about 5 years ago. And while I was in Nashville, I just fell in love with it. I just like, wow, this is beautiful. And the second time I was out here, we stuck around a week and kind of just looked around. And ever since then, we just started working to get out of California and get to greener pastures. And now I literally have a green pasture, so it worked out pretty well.
That's amazing, man. Well, I appreciate that, and congratulations out there. And man, I'm stoked to see you at your next fight. We'll be rooting you on, and thank you again for taking the time. You're very welcome. Thank you, sir. And if you ever want me on back on again, just let me know. Oh, absolutely. For your next fight, that'd be amazing, man. Appreciate that. That sounds great. Awesome. Have a great day. You too, sir.